Hello and welcome to episode 15 of Multifamily Investing with Bob Biggins. I'm Bob Biggins, and the first thing I want to talk about is episode 14. I have a slight correction, or I should say an addition to make. I said in your due diligence process, you can create a list, a check sheet, and you and your team can go through each unit and do your due diligence, physical due diligence, or you can hire an outside inspector to do due diligence. Something I didn't think of is if you're hiring a property manager, oftentimes the property manager will do that due diligence for you. I don't hire property management. We do self-management in-house, so that's why it didn't really occur to me until I got to thinking about it. They will often do that when you hire them to be the property manager for the complex, and they may charge a minimal amount, $25, $35, $45, $50 per door, and some property management companies will do it for $0 per door. So it just depends, and it's probably something very negotiable as well. So I just wanted to do that, a little bit of housekeeping about episode 14, and talk to you about the due diligence, physical due diligence, and who would be doing that. So those potential three people: yourself and your team, an inspector, or potentially the property management company and their maintenance staff. So we're into episode 15 now. You've closed on your property, you've got keys in your hands, you're at the title company, and you're feeling there's a lot of feelings going on. You're excited, you're scared, you're exhilarated, you're just not knowing what's going to be coming next. Well, while you're there, try to take a few photos and even videos, and then, if possible, go to your property. If you're not buying in a different state or a different location, try to go to your property and take photos and even videos there as well, because 30 years from now, you're going to love to look back on that and see, oh my gosh, look how young I looked, and look at my first purchase. I'm so seasoned now, and I've got many doors, and you'd love to be able to look back. I know units that I bought 28, 29, 30 years ago, I would love to have a video to look back and see where things were back then and where we've come so far. There wasn't technology to do that back then, at least not readily available like it is today. So just a tip, err on the side of taking too many videos and of your property, of you, of your family, of your team, whoever, as you're touring the property after you close, ideally. What do you do after you leave the title company? For sure, if you can, go to the property itself. If you're remote, have your property manager go to the property. And there's some things you want to get taken care of, like as soon as you leave closing till you get to the property, because if there's a problem, the residents could call the old owner, and they'd say, well, I don't own it anymore. Maybe this is the right phone number, this is the right phone number. God forbid there's a fire, there's anything crazy goes on at the property for that short amount of time, but stranger things have happened. So you're going to want to have, from the closing title company to the property, a stack of flyers. And you want to post those flyers up on the doors of the property as soon as you close. It's going to tell the new residents, the residents of the building that you're purchasing, the existing residents, but new to you, I'm the new owner, or this is the property management company. Even a little snapshot wouldn't hurt. If you see me around, say hello, introduce yourself. I'll do the same. So you just kind of get a little more intimate with the people living there, so they understand what's going on, because they're going to have a lot of fear. They're going to be fearing rents are going to go up, I'm going to get kicked out, people are going to want to get in and remodel my apartment, and I won't have anywhere to live. And these are very real thoughts that people in complexes have when new owners take over. So you want to set the people's mind at ease that no, if that's not your plan, you're going to do some sprucing up, but there's nothing earth-shattering going to be happening with you and your family. It's not a big thing to worry about. In that flyer, you're going to want to give them contacts. Who do I call in the event of any emergency? Any flood? Any fire? Fights in the parking lot? Any danger of any sort? Cars driving irrationally? People not from the complex coming in and creating problems? Call the landlord and or call the police. But you're going to want to put that in your initial 8.5 by 11 flyer that you're going to tape one on to probably every door and even the common doors coming in and out of the building, just so the people know. I don't know how you're going to manage your property, but something to think about. Is it going to be a smoking or non-smoking apartment complex facility? All of mine are non-smoking. They're non-smoking in the building, and people say, well, I'll smoke outside. No smoking outside, because then people flick their cigarette butts, and I have cigarette butts all over the yards, all over the parking lots, all over the sidewalks. Well, I'll go smoke in my car. Nope, if your car's in the driveway, it is a non-smoking premises. The entire lot that I own, that you reside in, is non-smoking. If you want to jump in your car and go down the block and smoke somewhere else, that's fine. But that is very valid. You can tell them it's a non-smoking complex. Even if it had been a smoking complex, there's no law that says that they have a right to smoke. So if you turned it into a non-smoking complex, it's going to take a while, I'm sure, if it has been a smoking complex. But start posting your signs now and put that word out to the people that things are going to change a little bit. With that, you can put a little blurb in there if you have old maintenance requests or maintenance requests that haven't been taken care of, especially ones that are active, like a drip under the sink or a refrigerator that's not working and it's defrosting and putting water all over the floor. Those type of things you want to address right away. So put right in your flyer, contact this number in the event you have an outstanding or almost like an emergency maintenance request that hadn't been addressed by the other owners, because experience tells me that when something's under contract and it's going to be a $200 or $300 or $500 fix, that many sellers will forego that fix and just let those maintenance requests sit and stack up to save their own money. And you'll be coming into sometimes a bit of a hornet's nest, and that's not uncommon. It's quite common. At least in our area of Western Michigan, it seems like many rentals were created in the 1970s. Things were built in the 1900s, early 1900s, 1920s, 1940s. Most things that are more on the newer side or the more modern side was built in the 70s. So I looked it up. What is the largest decade for multifamily manufacturing and doors that went onto the market? And the 1970s was the second largest, with 2.5 million doors in the United States from 1970 to 1979. And most of them that I see in our area are 1970, 71, 72, 73, 74. And it said that the first part of the year first part of the decade had lots of construction, with the later 70s far less because of oil embargo and other political pressures. But that's what the AI told me, was that the early 70s is when much of the construction happened. And just for your information, 2011, 10 through 19 is the number one highest, with 2.8 million doors coming to market in those 10 years. So just a bit of trivia there. So you will probably have maintenance requests because your assets are going to be, at least in our area, there's not a lot of new things coming on the market, but it's going to be 70s, potentially 80s, but potentially earlier than that as well. But not a lot of 2000s have been built in the Western Michigan region, up and down the lakeside. Not many, really. If appropriate, you probably have your capital plan all detailed out. What are we going to do? We're going to work on parking lots. We're going to work on sidewalks, steps, potentially a roof, windows, whatever you're going to do. get the word out to your contractors. I've closed, and you make a determination yourself, sequence of operations. What do you want to get done first? Usually you start at the top and work your way down. So if you got to do a roof, you got to think about, I'm going to do a roof. Do I want to do gutters? Because oftentimes when you do a roof, the gutters come off. Do I want to do fascia? Because when you take a roof off, a lot of debris falls inside of the aluminum fascia, or if it's wooden fascia, is it rotting? So make the determination from your initial quotes, roof, gutter, soffit, fascia. And that'll get the top side of your building all buttoned up in one clean project. And then could go on to the windows, and then could be doing the parking lot and the concrete and steps at a later time. Or in parallel, really, because they're two independent entities. But think about your capital plan. You've probably put it together and start executing on it, because a lot of these trades are oftentimes 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 3-4 months out, especially if you have a smaller project. If you have a big complex, you might get pushed to the front because it's a big job for them. But if you've got a duplex, chances are you're going to be hard pressed to get on somebody's schedule right away, because they gave you a quote, and until you close, you really don't want to schedule a date. And so now you've closed, you want to book that date for your capital project. You'll start to learn if you have non-payment of rent. In a 10-unit complex, it wouldn't be unusual to have 1 or 2 people that aren't paying, or in a 20-unit complex, have 2 people that aren't paying. If you've created an LLC, at least in Michigan, you can't evict them yourself. If you own it through your personal name, you can, but if you own it through an LLC or an entity, you cannot. So you got to contact your attorney and start getting them all of the information. If the previous owner just said, well, I'm not going to worry about it, and people haven't paid for a month or 2, I'm just not even going to worry about it, I'm going to let the other owner deal with it. Well, you're the other owner, and now you're dealing with that. And so you got to get things in order, start taking care of the non-payment issues. Attorney, forms that are going to be needed, down payments that are going to be needed, meetings with the attorney, and determine next steps for that. It's always smart, especially if you're in a, really any complex has the potential, but contact police. Tell the police, there's a new sheriff in town, I've just bought this property, I'm going to turn it around. A lot of times if it's 70s and it's been neglected for some time, maybe you got a really good deal on it and it's been neglected, the new sheriff in town, I'm going to clean things up. If you could do extra patrols around my complex, if you're on a main drag, they could drive through the parking lot, drive around every hour or 2 and get the word out to all your other officers that would, especially in the evenings, if you could do that, be very appreciative. And they don't like to have headaches either, so they would want a place to get cleaned up, because that means less calls for them and less headaches for them. Township officials, when you close, they'll learn that you bought the property, your entity has bought the property, your tax bills will come to there and that sort of thing. But you can contact your township officials, your city officials, your building inspector, your code enforcement officer, because code enforcement may know of many problems that are there, and say, well, yeah, watch out for the people at unit number 5, because we've had CPS there several times. So just tread lightly and know that it won't be the first time if we have to be called again. I mean, they'll tell you a lot of things that you really, it'll kind of make your head spin what goes on in some places, but you're just going to try to work through the issues. And if people are not going to comply with how you want to run your development, your organization, then they can pick up and leave as well. So it's just things you need to think through in order to put together the property or the complex like that you want to put together. Now, are you going to keep the name? If your complex has a name, are you going to keep that name, or are you going to change it? Is there signage available, or is there signage that's there? Do you need to take a signage down? Are there phone numbers on that sign that will have someone calling the old owner? So those are all things that, even if you got to take a paintbrush and run it through the if it's a wooden sign out front, take some paint and put it on the other telephone number so that no one calls the other owner. You might keep the name, but put in a different telephone number. Or change the whole name where the whole sign comes out, or you may go from a smaller wooden sign to, if it's a city area, you may get a lit sign, or you may have permits where you can get a lit sign eventually. If you have open units, when you're buying a property, again, you may have 1 or 2 out of 20 that are open and vacant. And are they rent ready? Oftentimes, not so much. Go through there with a fine-tooth comb and find out while you're there, even that first visit. Unlock the door, say, okay, and make your list. I'm gonna need new flooring. We're gonna definitely need fresh paint. It's 900 square feet. I'm gonna need 7 gallons of color for the walls, and 2 gallons of maybe white for the trim, and 5 gallons for ceiling. And just start making your list and determining what is gonna be needed in that unit if you're gonna turn it. Now, if it's not rented, you may have to reduce the rent or just wait for it to become rented, depending on what you're going to do in that first few days or weeks or months of you owning the property. Curb appeal. Often curb appeal is really lacking, especially because it's an easy thing, it's an expensive thing, and it's an easy thing to let slide. Parking lots, steps, sidewalks, trees, overgrown shrubbery, broken down fences. Work on your curb appeal, especially if you're going to increase rents right away or as leases come due. You're going to want to at least show the folks that I'm really trying to do something to make this place a lot better of a place for you to live. I'm not just raising rents to raise rents. So a lot of times, oftentimes, there's $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, $20,000 in tree work that's been neglected. Because tree work, it just slowly, literally trees slowly grow up, and they're growing up and over the roof, and they're creating black marks on the roof from no sun, and they're dropping branches, and they're denting the gutters, and they could become really a safety hazard. God forbid the wind comes through and knocks one of these big tree branches over, and it comes crushing through, it'll go right through a roof. And this scares the heck out of me of ever having trees close by where it could come right through and land in somebody's bedroom. I did have one about 15 years ago where a huge tree branch came through, and it went right through a resident's son's bedroom and stuck right through the ceiling, right through the roof, and right through the ceiling, and it was coming right through, touching on his bunk bed. And thank God he wasn't in that bunk bed. He could have been hurt or killed. So there's very real safety concerns with trees and curb appeal in general. Just, you'll know if you have curb appeal issues. And if you're going to have a property manager, just develop a overarching plan with your property manager. And you probably already have, or you've put pretty good plan into place, but now that you own it, time to hit the ground running. And so work with your property manager if that's the route you're going to go, to do whatever improvements need to be done in a timely manner. Hopefully you'll have property management software. And so now you could have had some rough numbers of folks into the property management software from not closing yet, but now that you've closed, all the security deposits can go in there, the rental amounts, how many children, photos of any of the units, anything like that can go up into your property management software, and just start building a library of each unit, of each resident, of whatever you're dealing with. So that's what I have for just the tip of the iceberg for when you buy your property. What are you going to do when you walk out that closing door and go to the property? Most people are going to be generally working on their own, at least the initial purchase. They'll be generally smaller. Sometimes you'll have somebody buy a large property out of the gate and not self-managed, but usually people start out self-managing because they don't have the money to pay management oftentimes. So my next video, we'll be working on some maintenance, capital, repairs, just things that you're going to want to get figured out when you buy your property, and just some project planning and just maybe sequence of operations and what to do in some of these projects. So thank you for your time, and have a good rest of your day, and Take care. Thank you.